Yah said that it will come down. Beyonce's hair care line is a big deal. Beyonce's hair care line came out, and her groupies, her stans, her fans, her stalkers, they all ran out and they got it. This thing called the sacred hairline. This is Beyonce's hair care line. And the Lord surprised me by saying that this line has something in it that is not healthy. The Lord says that the sacred hair care line contains something not healthy and harmful to humans, and they're going to pull this line from the shelves. They're going to pull it. Sacred hair care line will be exposed for having something in it that is not healthy, that is harmful to humans, and they're going to pull it. Yah said that it will come down off the shelves in record time amidst a scandal. It will be pulled quickly with no real or no reasonable explanation given for why it is deemed harmful or why they will claim it wasn't formulated properly. Please be aware that you and God are not the same. When God says something is going to happen in record time, please understand that he was alive even at the time of the dinosaurs. To him, everything is a moment. To him, everything is 5 minutes. So when he says record time, and then 2 weeks from now you come, you see the prophecy failed, you know that I'm going to ignore you, but hard. God's timing is not my business. When God gives me these prophecies, the only date you will ever hear is the date that I received it. That's why I always say, I received this prophecy on the fulfillment of a prophecy. I'll be sleeping one day and then my phone will begin to blow up because I know you out there. You that crashed the moon bump website. Good grief, people. My phone will begin to blow up and then I wake up and I'll see 80 messages from the people who watch this channel, and then I will know, oh, something is happening. Something is being fulfilled. So Beyonce's hair care line is a big deal. Beyonce's hair care line came out, and her groupies, her stans, her fans, her stalkers, they all ran out and they got it. It's called Sacred, but spelt in a very strange way, C-E-C-R-E-D. So this line, it had the whole hoopla going with it. You could not avoid the launch on TikTok because it was everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. She had a few influencers that she contacted, and she sent them the entire range for them to go through, and obviously for them to get the hype going in the beehive top tier. And so that has happened, and yet God is saying that for the amount of time this thing has been in the market, which I think is just maybe 2 months or 3 months at the most, he says this thing is going to come down in record time. So when you want to understand record time, think of Revlon. Revlon only started having trouble, I think, a few years ago. Revlon is one of those timeless brands that have been there since the dynasty and all my children years, and probably maybe a little bit ahead of that. There's some old iconic brands in this country. The only reason they are struggling now is because it's the rise of the influencers. The influencers all have palettes, so you can divide your face into all the 4 colors of army camo and then blend it all until you make one face. So older brands with older styles of marketing just could not compete in that climate. And so after decades is how you start to see a brand like CoverGirl and a brand like Revlon relegated at the back at the shelves. Maybelline, they're not doing as well as this Kylie Jenner, Jeffree Star type of Too Faced type of stuff. And so if you formulate something and it comes down in under 10 years, even under 5 years, then that's a record failure. There's a lot of brands that start up well and then don't make it, and that's what God is saying. So he says, there will be no real reason given for why this thing comes down, why the sacred hair care line comes down. No real explanation will be given as to why it's harmful. What exactly is the harm? Is it making people bald? Is it going to cause inflammation in the scalp? Is it going to make follicles loose? Is it going to make follicles inflamed? Is it going to make people's hair flake and drop off? What exactly? But he says that something will be found not healthy in it. But all they're going to come out and say is something like, oh, it just wasn't formulated properly. In other words, don't look for in-depth explanations as to what is going on. And the reason for that, you will hear right now. God says that's because neither Beyonce or her management team or her manager will bother to make a serious statement. They're not going to come out and be open and say, listen, we found this, and this is what we actually found that it can do. we found this and it can cause baldness, or don't look for that much empathy, openness, and vulnerability, because God says they are not going to be bothered to make a serious statement and to explain what's going on. He says they will say something perfunctory. A perfunctory statement is basically when you see these influencers have said something completely unacceptable and out of pocket, and the internet goes wild and backlashes on them, and then they come and they say, this is not my normal self. I should have known better. I don't know why I didn't know better. But you know what? I'm sorry. And then they walk away. The whole flavor of the thing is false. You can tell that they're not sorry. Perfunctory means something will be bland, it will be short, and it will just be a rinse and repeat. It will sound like every other insincere explanation you've ever had. But God says that you will not see this woman making any kind of sincere public appeal to her fans, or holding a live stream apology where everybody gets to come on and say, Queen, did you try to make us bald? Queen, were you going after our hair and our dreadlocks, mother? You won't see anything like that. God is saying that she's not going to allow any kind of deep interaction for you who bought it, spent so much money on overpriced shampoo. You will not get the kind of explanation that you're looking for. It may be a team member, God says. It may be a team member of the Beyonce camp who comes out and does all the press and even takes all the blame. And says, you know what, I was in charge. I was in charge of production. I didn't go to the factory enough. It was me. It was me. You should know by now, hearing what God has said, that this camp has lines upon lines upon lines of fall guys. A fall guy is somebody who will take the blame for something that rich people do when the fall guy doesn't have the money, the means, or the opportunity to do the thing that he will be confessing in the press release and saying that he or she did. And so God says it may be a team member who does all the press and even takes blame for it, but Beyonce herself will do her best to stay out of the limelight. She will do her best to stay out of the limelight. And God says the brand that is Beyonce, meaning Beyonce's personal brand, who she is, how she styles herself, how she has been carefully curated over decades to be presented to you as this, and then wants to be received by you as only that thing. God says that brand that is Beyonce hates to be associated with anything that is messy, anything that is a failure. He says anything that is not worship or praise. She hates to be having her name in the same sentence with that. So